friends, my name is Jess. Welcome to Books Past Bedtime. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you my June wrap-up. So in June, I managed to read a total of 19 books, so it was a very good reading month for me. Of these 19 books, I read 6,539 pages. And just to break down these books a little bit and give you some stats, I did read 11 adult books, 6 YA, and 2 middle grade. As far as genres go, I did read a wide variety of books this month, so I did read 7 contemporaries. That is definitely my most common genre, pretty much as usual. I also read 1 poetry collection, 3 nonfiction books, 1 classic, 1 graphic novel, 1 sci-fi, 1 thriller, and 4 fantasy books. So let's just get into them. A lot of these I have talked about in previous videos on my channel this month, so I am just going to go through a quick run through of all the books, give you my rating, give you what I thought about them, and just keep it moving. I will link to all the videos I talked about these books in more depth in the description down below, so definitely check that out if you're interested. But let's just get into it. The first couple books I'm going to talk about, I did read for the Queer Lit ReadAthon. I have a TBR video for that readathon as well as a wrap-up video for that readathon. The first book I read for this readathon was Conventionally Yours by Annabeth Albert. I gave this book 4 stars. This book follows Conrad and Alden, who really hate each other, but they're thrown together on a cross-country road trip to go to a convention for their favorite trading card game. They do hate one another, so this is how they start the trip, with a lot of animosity, but along the way they kind of discover that they might be perfect for each other and just what the other needs. This is a great book. It has one of my favorite romance tropes, enemies to lovers. It's also got a lot of good representation, some great banter, and it's really just a lot of fun. While the road trip aspect did get a little bit repetitive at times, and I could have gone for a little steam, overall this was really good. Once again, gave it 4 stars. The next book I read for the Queer Lit Readathon was Aphrodite Made Me Do It by Trista Mateer. This was a poetry collection by a queer woman about love, relationships, abuse, overcoming abuse, recovery, and being a woman. I gave this book 5 stars. I thought it was really gorgeous. I saw myself in a lot of the poems and just thought it was really beautiful overall. Next, I read Spinning by Tilly Walden. This is a graphic memoir about Tilly Walden's life growing up in the world of competitive ice skating. This was actually really interesting and dealt with a lot of heavy topics, such as family relationships, coming out. My dad just sent me a text message asking about furries. Oh my god, that's priceless. Anyway, and just growing up in general, this was another beautiful read. I gave this 5 stars. It was absolutely heartbreaking and definitely a must read. For this readathon, I also read The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is a character-driven sci-fi story, and it follows a motley crew on this spaceship as they journey through space. It has great friendships, great relationships. The characters are so interesting. It also deals with some heavy topics such as racism, sexuality, and gender. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it and plan to continue on in the series. Next, I read Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker and Wendy Zhu. This is a YA graphic novel following Nova, who is a young witch, and Tam, who is a non-binary werewolf. This graphic novel follows them as they rekindle their friendship and eventually rekindle their romance, also as they try to save their forest and town from this evil demon character. This is super cute, super queer, gave it 4 stars, really loved it. And the last book I finished for this readathon was This Is What It Feels Like by Rebecca Barrow. This is a YA contemporary that follows 3 main characters: Dia, who is a black teenage mother, Jules, who is an out and proud lesbian who gets into a multiracial relationship during the course of the story, and Hannah, who is a recovering alcoholic. These 3 girls back in the day used to be in a band together, used to play music together, but then their lives kind of imploded and their friendships fell apart. But when they are presented with a new opportunity to enter this music competition with a cash prize reward and the chance to open for one of their favorite local bands, they jump on the chance and decide to reform their band. And this book is about them rekindling their friendship, playing music together, and coming to understand one another even better. I really enjoyed this book. It kind of took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, but it's very much just a feel-good story about friendship, music, romance, girl love, girl power, and it really demonstrates strong girls overcoming difficult obstacles and excelling, which we love, obviously. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It definitely, I thought, was a little bit too long. It could have been shortened up a little bit and made a little bit more snappy and impactful, but overall this was a really good read. Next, I read 3 books for my Choose Your Own Adventure reading vlog. Definitely go check that out if you haven't already. It's a lot of fun. But to finish that up this month, I read The Midnight Lie by Marie Rutowski. This is a class-based fantasy taking place in the same world as Marie Rutowski's The Winner's Circle trilogy, and it is sapphic and queer and ends on a cliffhanger. I really thought this was a standalone, but it's not, but that's okay. This was a lot of fun. I'm not going to tell you a lot of my thoughts because that will spoil the video, but I did did end up giving this one around 3 stars. It was alright. And also for that video, I read Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This is another fantasy. It follows this girl named Elizabeth who works in this magical library with these magical grimoires, they're called, these magical books that catalog spells for the warlocks in the world. She actually is in the wrong place at the wrong time when somebody attacks her library and is accused of the crime, so she's sent to the capital to be tried, but it turns out that she's actually gotten herself entangled in something much more sinister and she has to figure out how to put the bad guys in their place. This one took me by surprise. I actually liked it more than I thought I would. There are some really good characters in this book. Again, I don't want to tell you too many of my thoughts because I don't want to spoil, but this one also hovered around the 3-star range for me. And finally for that video, I did read The Whisper Man by Alex North. This is an adult thriller novel following these two characters, this father and son who moved to this new town after their wife/mother passes away for a fresh start. And in this town, there is this lore of the Whisper Man who was a serial killer about 20 years ago. He is now imprisoned. As the father and son move to this town, there is another kidnapping and killing, and there are rumors that the Whisper Man, or like a copycat or an accomplice maybe, has returned and is starting to kill again. So this book is about trying to figure out who did it. It's very interesting because it's like tangled up with what happened 20 years ago as well. This is a very true crime-esque thriller. I did really enjoy it. So this month, after the tragic and unjust death of George Floyd, as well as the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, I really wanted to do my part to try and educate myself better than I have in the past. And so I decided to participate in the Blackout buddy read that was hosted by Shay over at Books with Shay. For this buddy read, we did read 2 nonfiction books about racism, particularly in America. The first was White Rage by Carol Anderson. Honestly, this book was a hard pill to swallow because it really showed me how ignorant I am to so much of America's racial history. And overall, it's just disheartening to know that what we are taught in schools and what we are grown up with. Personally, I do live in a state that was a part of the Confederacy, so other people in different states might have had different experiences, but I know I definitely was presented a very skewed version of history growing up. While I knew this, it's very different being presented the other side of the story and really grappling with that and coming to understand just how far the bias went, if that makes sense. I'm not very eloquent about speaking about this yet, but hopefully as I read more resources and become more and more informed, I will improve on that. We also read White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. I can't speak on the controversy surrounding this book. A lot of Black and POC people in the community did take issue with the way that the author used the N-word in this book. I obviously cannot say whether that's okay or not, but I feel like I did get things out of this book personally. This book is a book that is written for white people to educate them on their microaggressions and open their eyes to the ways that they are inadvertently racist in their everyday life. I felt like I learned a lot from this book and can take away the good lessons it taught to me. I felt like it gave me some tools and language to be a better anti-racist in my life. And I don't know if I said this, but I did give both of these books 5 stars because for me, I think that they did what they set out to do and were a good jumping off point for me to find more resources to educate myself even better. Obviously, these 2 books alone aren't going to provide me with everything that I need. Education is a continual process when it comes to anything. And so personally, I'm glad to have read these books and do feel like I got quite a lot out of both of them. And then I participated in yet another readathon. This was the Romance-a-thon, which was hosted by Gabby over at Gabby Reads and Jacqueline over at We Be Bookin'. This was a week-long readathon about reading as much romance as possible, and I tried to do just that. So the first book I finished that week was You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This book follows Liz, who really wants to get out of her hometown, but unfortunately she doesn't get the scholarship she wants from the college she really wants to go to. So instead she decides to run for prom queen, and prom queen in her town ends up getting a scholarship to college. So she is really desperate to get this scholarship so she can live out the life that she wants to. Along the way, she navigates family issues, friend issues, as well as a relationship with another girl who is running for prom queen. Overall, this book is very cute and wholesome. I do wish it had done a deeper dive into some of the more hard-hitting issues that they kind of skimmed over, but overall, I did really enjoy it. Thought it was fun, thought it was cute. Always love a queer book. So gave this 4 stars. Look out for a reading vlog that this will be included in, and I will have more thoughts later on in the month about this book. Next, I read Head Over Heels by Hannah Ornstein. This is a romance between 2 gymnastics coaches who are coaching an Olympic hopeful gymnast. With this one, I really liked reading about the gymnastics elements, but I didn't love the romance. I took some issues with the conflict and miscommunication at the end, and also just felt like it could have been more like swoony, more steamy. Was a little disappointed, gave this one 3 stars. I also read Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This book follows Felix, who is a Black queer trans teenager who is blackmailed and bullied at school and sets out to get revenge, but then gets himself entangled in this love triangle. I really wanted to love this book, and I do love it for its subject matter and representation, but I had quite a few personal problems with it and won't be a new personal favorite. I go more in depth on my thoughts on this book in my Romance-a-thon vlog, which I will link up above and down below. I also read Beach Read by Emily Henry that week. This is a really fun book about two writers who live next to each other on Lake Michigan and decide that they are going to switch genres in order to try and get out of the writing slump that they're both in, and obviously they fall in love because this is a romance book. This was really cute. I think I went into it with a little bit too high of expectations. I was really expecting it to absolutely blow me away, but it's honestly a pretty simple story. I did really like the family dynamics in this book, and I thought the romance was really sweet, but I just wanted a little bit more from it. It wasn't as swoony as some of the romances I've read recently, and overall, while I really enjoyed it, I just didn't enjoy it enough to give it 5 stars, so this got 4 stars from me. We had a really fun discussion, as this was the Page Turner Book Club pick for June. I will link the live stream up above and down below if you want to listen to us chat about this book. It was a lot of fun and a really good discussion. The final book I finished for the Romance-a-thon was If I Never Met You by Vari McFarlane. I definitely mispronounced her name in every previous clip that I've ever said it. I am very sorry. But anyway, this was the group book for the Romance-a-thon, so it was fun reading that along with everybody else. This follows this woman named Lori who is broken up with by her boyfriend of 18 years at the very beginning of this book, and she's kind of like, what the heck, what am I supposed to do? And then this boyfriend goes and gets into another serious relationship right away and impregnates his new girlfriend. She's like, what in the world? And so she strikes up a deal with the office playboy. They start fake dating to both make Lori's ex-boyfriend jealous and to help Jamie seem more like a family man so he can get a promotion within their law firm. Romance ensues. Honestly, I was expecting this to be a pretty romance-heavy book, but it really wasn't. It was more about Lori's struggles, her midlife crisis. I had a lot of trouble relating to this book, mostly I think because Lori was considerably older to me. I'm not at that point in my life where I'm having a midlife crisis. I've not been in a relationship with somebody for 18 years and then had to start over. It was kind of hard for me to relate to those themes because I'm in such a different place in my life than Lori was. I also found this book a little bit boring. It was a little bit too long. I think it could have been condensed quite a bit. Overall, it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. The only books I read this month were for readathons or read-alongs. The final read-along I participated in was the Harry Potter read-along hosted by Hannah over at Adventuring Foodie. I was a little behind, so this month I read both Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by She Who Must Not Be Named and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by She Who Must Not Be Named. While there was quite a bit of controversy over these books this month, I do still really love these stories. Personally, I feel like I can separate the story from the author in this particular instance because there are ways to enjoy this story without financially supporting her, and that is what I plan to do from now on. These characters and this story really mean so much to me. I can't really imagine my life without them, so I'm going to continue to enjoy them without financially supporting She Who Must Not Be Named. That's the tea on that. These books obviously got 5 stars from me. I really enjoyed reading them. This is my first time reading the illustrated edition. I really wish I could keep buying these and like just pay Jim K, but maybe I'll try to get them used or something. Anyway, they're very beautiful. I love the illustrations. It's such a fun and unique reading experience, and I really enjoyed reading them again. Also, I love the like full color pages of Draco. Those are the best, if anybody was wondering. Then finally, the last book I finished this month, and the only book I didn't read for a particular reason, was The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I'm so proud of myself for finally finishing this freaking book. I've been reading it since January. If you didn't know, this is a hunker. It's like 1,200 pages. It's the longest book I've ever read. It is like 100 and some pages longer than It by Stephen King, so this is officially the longest book I've ever read. And was it worth it? I don't know. I did end up giving this book 5 stars. If you didn't, 5 stars. No, I did not. I give it 4 stars. If you didn't know, this book follows this character named Edmond Dantes who is betrayed by some colleagues / acquaintances right when his life is starting to get on track. Because of this betrayal, he ends up going to jail for like 13 years. But this guy who he was in jail with knew of this fortune. So once he escapes from prison, he is filthy rich and he sets out on this journey to avenge his betrayal, and he with everybody's family and like finances and like ruins them. It's intense. It really was amazing like how Dumas was able to weave such a complex story. Like every interaction, every scene, every relationship had a purpose in the story, in the end game. And while I did think it was way too freaking long and it could have definitely been a lot shorter, I did appreciate how complex and convoluted this story was, and I can see for sure why it's a classic and why it has lasted this long. So those those were the 19 books that I read in June. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you being here, hanging out with me, listening to me ramble about these books. All relevant links will be in the description down below, including any videos I mentioned and all the books I mentioned, even though that's going to take forever. Oh well, you're welcome. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.